getting into the D itself, they are the most straightforward of any type of person you are going to deal with. They are no bullshit, and they're not going to bullshit you. They're going to be as honest and transparent as possible. And one thing to know is their roles in society, like I said, are CEOs. San Diego is a huge tech hub in America. Amazon just built a 3 million square foot warehouse in Otay Mesa. Apple's importing 5,000 employees here. There are big companies that are setting up shop. Sorrento Valley is a huge tech hub. And I would say what's most important about learning how to work with the D, you're probably going to make the most money out of those transactions because of the higher price points, because they have higher roles in society. Now, if you look at a D itself, it measures a direct dominant disposition using adjectives such as driven, strong-willed, and forceful. They want to get to the point. They don't care about fluff. They don't want to hear a lot about your family or anything like that. You got to level with them and see eye to eye. You can't come from below. If you're not confident, they're going to disregard you entirely because you seem like you don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, this guy's not on my level. He can go fuck himself. I'm going to find someone that can see eye to eye with me. Or if you come at it from a condescending point of view, they're going to think you're talking down to them, which will also cause them to disengage. With the DI or ID, they tend to be more sociable. They're people that are usually in charge, but they're also charismatic. They are willing to have those conversations with you once they get to know you. Granted, they're still going to start in the position where they want to know that you know what you are talking about so that they will conduct business with you. But as they open up, they will be more susceptible to being social with you, to making jokes, to being more interactive just on a friendly basis than anything. They tend to be more adventurous and more outgoing. They're willing to take the risks that a lot of people aren't because they have the confidence in themselves and are also willing to put themselves out there to get to the point where they want to be, regardless of the risk. Whereas the DC or the CD, they're fact oriented. A lot of times they don't want to take the risks because they know the facts, they know the laws, they know what permits you need to build a certain thing on a certain house. They're going to look at things very, very objectively to where it is completely in line with what the general criteria of how housing markets work. Now, if you come to a C and you don't know what the cap rate is on a certain property, if you can't provide them the proper return on investment, or if you don't know what permits they would need in order to build an ADU, they're going to disregard you very, very quickly because they are all about the know-how and how to do the know-how.
Awesome. So kind of as Lucas explained, right, we can be multiple discs in one. So we're going to focus primarily on those D personalities. And like you mentioned, they're typically dominant people. They want to lead rather than follow. And they tend to have high self-confidence and are risk takers. And they also tend to be self-starters. So go ahead. Perfect. So we want to think about what they contribute to a team. What are some of the positive things about Ds? They are very results oriented. They're typically very bottom line oriented. They want to see results quickly, and they don't care about your family. They don't want to have small talk. They want to get from point A to point B very quickly. So the good news is I think a lot of people are apprehensive about working with D personalities if you don't have that in your own personality because they can seem intimidating and they can seem dominating. But the cool thing about them is once you have buy-in with them, you have buy-in. They're quick decision makers, so they're not going to change their mind again about you later. Once you're in with them. So having that confidence and understanding what they want. Hey, if they want results, I'm going to get them results. They don't need to have this back and forth chat, and we don't need to send fun pictures and emojis in our text, right? Like I just need to get them the house and send them the property. So in some ways, like they're almost a relief to work with as a client because they don't involve as much nurturing or as much work, right? So if you can just get over the hump of knowing, hey, this person might hurt my feelings a little bit because they're more direct, but hey, if I can get in with them, we're gonna close this transaction sooner. So just kind of thinking of it from that lens rather than, oh, I'm intimidated by how this person interacts and, oh, they don't like me because they didn't ask me how my day was. It's just, that's how they operate. So some things to keep in mind when working with a D personality. And these are just fun. So these are some celebrity quotes from more D personalities. I can never be safe. I always try and go against the grain. As soon as I accomplish one thing, I set a higher goal. That's how I've gotten to where I am. Beyonce, I had to put that in there. If you quit once it becomes a habit, never quit. Michael Jordan, ambition beats genius 99% of the time. Jay Leno, it's amazing what you can get if you quietly, clearly, and authoritatively demand it. Meryl Streep. If something stands between you and your success, move it, never be denied. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So just some fun quotes to kind of, as you think of different celebrities and their personalities as well.
So with D's, very like quite literally, they act like D's. They're very much like my way or the highway type of people. If you try to combat them on anything, then they accept that as a challenge. And if they know what they're talking about, they're going to run straight through you. So if you have someone coming in saying they want $2.2 million for a house and you want that listing, then you go in there and you accept their terms and conditions and let them fall flat on their face. And that's just sometimes how it has to go because they can be their own worst enemy. Speaking as a D, sometimes my ego is too big to understand the true facts of a situation. And a lot of times I need to allow myself to fail in order to move forward. So with their weaknesses, they tend to overstep authority as they prefer to be in charge themselves. They'll try to walk all over you. I know David Dufert with his recent closing, that guy was a, lack of a better words, an asshole. And so he kind of tried to take reign for everything. And David really had patience with that transaction. And that's what I believe made it go all the way through, is that David understood where he was coming from. He kind of let him do his own thing. And at the end of the day, being the less combative, the better, because they will overstep no matter what, unless they fully respect you. And at times they can be argumentative and not listen. They know their reasoning and they are okay with their reasoning. They're not too keen on facts unless they're also a high C. It's very much associated with what they believe in their belief system. They will hold that incredibly tight to them until they are familiar with you. At the point in which you are familiar with them, you can start to instill little bits of knowledge with information that backs up what you're trying to convey to them. Because if you just come at them with your opinion, they don't give a shit about your opinion. They care about their opinion. And if you're ever going to move them forward as far as how their ideology goes, you have to provide that wisdom and insight that will actually guide them forward, as opposed to try and combat you on what you're trying to tell them. They also tend to dislike repetition and routine and may ignore the details. Sometimes when I'm in follow-up, boss, I do not go through my segments properly and I won't go about things the way I should throughout the day. And that's my bad. That's one of my faults. They will try to cut corners in some situations. They will try to avoid permits. And when they're trying to sell their home, hold back on certain details so they don't want to explain, because they know that that will cause them to fall short in a situation. But once again, coming back to letting them fall flat on their face, a lot of times that's what you have to do, because as long as you're still there, but you're allowing them to make the mistake and then learn from it and still be a source of insight afterwards for what could have gone wrong and provide some information, then they'll continue to work with you because they trust you and you're instilling a bit of wisdom on them. And they also may attempt too much at one time. Huge work people, like they love to work. They are often productivity based. They don't often consume too much. Some of them are more minimalistic than others. They want to see success. If you can't provide success, if you can't present yourself in the highest form, they won't work with you. Like I said, every agent that I've talked, or every client that I've talked to that wants to list their home, they're interviewing 3 other agents. And like I said, 3 seconds you have to convince them to work with you. You have to come with confidence. If you lack confidence and you don't present yourself well, might as well just walk back out the door, because they're going to go with someone else immediately. And if you try to combat them on what they're saying, and you think that they're going about things a little too roughly, if you think they're overstepping, if you think they're attempting too much, just let them do it. And as long as you retain them with that level of trust, they'll come back to you. They just have to mess things up themselves.